Hey guys, let's talk about tonight's episode of Game of Thrones. And we are slowly starting to figure out who was behind the death of Joffrey. And it looks like Littlefinger has aligned himself with some people who wanted to see Joffrey out of the picture. And it looks like one of those people may have been Marjorie's grandmother, Olena, and it looks like she was doing what was going to be best for her granddaughter. And she has this very interesting conversation with her when she's telling her how, when she got married to her husband, he wasn't really originally intended for her, and that the night before he was supposed to propose, blah blah, like all this stuff went down, and he was supposed to propose to her sister and it didn't end up happening, and he wanted to be with her because she snuck into his room and did all these things to her, which is her grandmother's way of saying you need to get yourself to Tommen, who is going to be the new king, and get to him before Cersei can get to him and poison him against her. So the grandmother also says, you didn't really think I was going to allow you to marry that vile man, right? So clearly, Olena had something to do with the death of Joffrey. And we find out that he was poisoned, we knew that, but that Sansa's necklace had something to do with it. So Littlefinger gave out a lot of little juicy information in that conversation that he had with Sansa, and clearly there are many things being pulled behind the scenes, and Sansa is of course getting caught in the crosshairs because Cersei thinks that she had something to do with it and wants her head on a spike as soon as possible. She wants Jaime to find her and kill her. And, like, I don't even know what to say because we all know Sansa doesn't have a devious bone in her body. It would have been awesome if she did have something to do with this, but she didn't. And even Tyrion knows this. So finally, when Jaime goes to see his brother, they have this conversation, a very candid conversation, and he asks him, did you kill Joffrey? And Tyrion says, do you think I would kill your son? And I like that we're finally having this spoken conversation about the fact that Joffrey was the son of Jaime and Cersei. And even though people didn't say it, they knew it, but it wasn't really being spoken. So, of course, in that scene, Tyrion, hints at it and he says, do you really think that I would do that? And oh, at first he says, oh, because Jaime says that Cersei is grieving the loss of her son, and then of course Tyrion chimes in and is like, her son, and then he's like, don't even go there. And so then later on in the conversation he actually says, did you really think that I would murder your son? And so I like that it's actually being spoken, that everybody knew that Jaime and Cersei were the parents of Joffrey, and they were just trying to pull a fast one on everything, that he was a Baratheon. So I like that it's actually being spoken about. But of course, Jaime doesn't believe that his brother would do this, and when he goes to his sister and tell her, she just isn't even trying to hear any of it. She just wants Tyrion dead. She wants Sansa dead, and she basically dismisses Jaime like he is nothing. Okay, let me just say this, because after last week's brutal scene that we saw, I was not a fan of Jaime. I was just like, I cannot believe they did this to him. But then in this week's episode, I have to say, I'm starting to like Jaime again. And it's a horrible thing to say because he raped his sister last week. Okay, people, he really did that. And then this week, he basically trying to get Brienne out of the city, because I think he deep down knows that his sister does not like her and that she will probably have her killed. And then, so he sends her on a mission to go and find Sansa and protect her and sort of do the oath that they swore to Catherine, which was that they would protect Sansa and Arya if they were still alive. So I like that Jamie is at least keeping to that word, and he is sending Brienne out to go and find Sansa. And then he even gets her like this armored suit. You know, he's all like, "Oh, I hope this is your size," and everything. Like, they're really cute. And that was one of the things that really turned me in Jamie's favor last season, was his whole storyline with Brienne and his character arc, that like the redemption storyline that they gave him last week, or last season. So the fact that they would go to such brutal lengths last week was heartbreaking, because I really, really like Jamie. And I think that he is one of those characters that you kind of love to hate, because he's not truly a bad guy, but he does bad things. So, of course, him being the Kingslayer, and now what he did last week, horrible, horrible things. But then he starts to do some of the things that he did in this week's episode, and I start to like him all over again. And I liked the fact that he got Podrick to go with Brienne, because he deep down knows that Podrick's basically a dead man walking around the town, because he's linked to Tyrion. And if Tyrion goes down, he goes down, because he's the one person he knows is rooting for Tyrion, and he would be vocal about that probably, and it would be ultimately his death. So he sends him Podrick off with Brienne, and now they're off to go find Lady Sansa and hopefully protect her from crazy Littlefinger and whatever scheme he's got up his sleeve. So we started the episode off with two characters, Missandei and Grey Worm, and they are two of the people that are with Khaleesi, of course, the mother of dragons, and Missandei is teaching Grey Worm how to speak English, and they're hilarious. I mean, his conversation is just too funny. But then they start talking about, pretty much how they became slaves, and the memories of that, and you can tell that these two are having some bonding moments, and then even Khaleesi walks in on that moment, and you can just tell that they're kind of both blushing, but they don't make a big deal about it. So what happens afterwards is we see Grey Worm go on behalf of Khaleesi into this city that they are trying to take over, and he infiltrates like where all the slaves are being held captive, and he basically goes in there with a bag with some of his other brethrens, I guess you could say, and he goes in there with a bag of swords and knives, and he gives it to them, and he's like, the only way that you're going to become free is if you take it. Nobody else is going to be able to do it for you. And so that is exactly what they do. They basically attack their masters, and they hand them over to Khaleesi, and now they are free. And Khaleesi awesomely takes 163 of these masters and nails them to these crosses, like what they had done to the children as they were coming up to this city. So Khaleesi said this really great line, which was, she's going to treat injustice with justice. And I like that, because, she's not just trying to be like, I'm the queen and I'm the king and I can do whatever I want. She's just trying to prove a point that you did this to these innocent children, and now this is how I'm going to respond. And she is just building her massive army, and it's awesome to watch, because Khaleesi is not... I don't feel like she's going to be a bad ruler. I feel like she's going to be somebody that you want to rule and align with, which is why her army is becoming so big, and I can't wait to see what happens next with her. So next we end up over by Castle Black, and we see Jon Snow teaching the rest of his crows how to fight against this upcoming threat, which is the wildlings. And he's, teaching them he's got it. Basically, you have to disarm them, because they're going to be coming at you with two swords, and you got to disarm them and then turn it around on them. And he's being challenged right now by this other gentleman who lives in, or who's at Castle Black. And he's trying to basically, put Jon in his place. And he doesn't want to be, I guess he doesn't want his position to be threatened by Jon Snow. and he's not being really kind and he's not really nice, and he's even being warned that he's got to be careful because people actually like Jon Snow, and they could all turn on you if it comes down to them having to vote on who they want to be their leader. And ultimately, John decides that he needs to go to this place called Crastus, which is a where they basically need to go and try to talk to the people that are there or kill them in order to beat them for when the wildlings come to that place and find out where Jon Snow and all of their people are. Because if they basically find out that they don't have as much manpower as they think they have, that they will take over and they will kill everybody there. So now Jon has been allowed, I guess, a group of men to join him to go to Crastus and take and basically try to take over this place. And he ends up going with a gentleman that he's just met, and his name is Locke, and he's got a bunch of other men that are going to go with him. And I like this Locke guy. I feel like he could be a trustworthy ally for Jon Snow, but you never know with this show because everyone's got their own little political maneuvers that they're trying to make, and that can be a very scary thing. But I like that Jon is becoming this authority at Castle Black, and people are listening to him and they're looking up to him, and he's not just some guy who is just another night a watchman. Is that what you call them? The Night's Watch, and that he's actually somebody that they are looking up to with respect and maybe a little bit of admiration. So I like that. So after we had some interesting stuff going on with this other gentleman named Carl. And he's going on, he's all drunk and everything, and he's talking about all these highborns that he's killed, or, what he's done at King's Landing and how he could kill anybody whenever he has the opportunity to. And he actually ends up capturing Bran and the people that he's with. What's his name again? Hordo, I think it is the guy who's with Bran, and they end up taking them pretty much hostage. And Bran and like has this vision, or he does that, that thing where he closes his eyes and his eyes go all white, and his wolf goes off running, and then his wolf ends up in a trap, and so they're going to try to find his brother's wolf when they get captured by Carl and the crazies that are with them there. And so now Carl knows that who Bran is, that Bran is he was Ed Stark's son, and that's going to be very interesting to see what happens. And I have a feeling that this is the place where Jon Snow and all of their people are coming to, so I'm sure that they're going to roll up there sooner than later, and a crazy fight is going to ensue amongst all of those people, which will be very entertaining because this guy's an ass, and I want to see him get what's coming to him. So we also had some nice scenes between, like I said, Jaime in this episode, and you could see that one of the things with Jaime, he's very complex, and I like that. Nobody's just cut in black and white in this series. And, so the fact that he sent Brienne and Podrick off, shows another side of him. And you can tell that he's even going against his sister in this moment, because his sister, who's all now concerned with Tommen, and he's like, make sure you have more than one guard on his door, and I want 4 guards on his door, because she's now worried that somebody's going to try to kill her other son. And at this moment, we have Marjorie sneaking into his room and starting to have this conversation, because obviously she took what her grandmother said to heart, and now she's going in to talk to Tommen and kind of plant her seeds. And she's all like, if we're going to be married, we're going to have secrets between us and things. And he's all like, but my mom's going to find out. And he's terrified of his mother. And she's like, well, if we're going to be married, then we're going to have some secrets between us. So this right here, this conversation has to stay between the two of us. Okay. And you can tell that he's like I swear, he's like 12 or 13. He's so young. And he just looks like this kid who sees this woman in his bed and he's all flustered. He doesn't know what to do, what to say. And she's all, being her little flirty self, and she's telling him all these things and blah blah blah, and I'm gonna have to be your wife, and soon I'll be your wife, and I'm just like, oh boy, here we go. And you can just tell that he's not going to be Joffrey. He's not like some sadistic teen, power hungry teen. He's actually going to be a very soft, sweet, gentle soul, and he's probably going to get run over because of that. And Marjorie's already starting to plant her seeds so that when the mother tries to, tarnish Marjorie's reputation, I'm sure that he's not going to be able to believe it because he's already met her now and he's starting to have these conversations. And she even says, do you mind if I sneak in another night? And he's all like, no, I don't mind. I'm just thinking of that poor boy under those sheets who knows what's going on. I'm sure that boy has not had a girl in his bed ever. So, yeah, that was funny. That was definitely a funny scene. But, yeah, it should be interesting to see what is going to go down once they start really, really grooming him to be king. And what threats are going to be looming over him, which will be cool. We also, I guess at the end, we see that there's this one child left at Crastus. I guess that's how you say the name. And this Carl guy is like, well, what do you want me to do with it? Blah, blah, blah. And they're all chanting, it's the gift from the gods. It's the gift of the gods, for the gods, this and that. So he's all like, well, if this is what the White Walkers want, then let's give them what they want. So they take the baby out into the cold. They leave it outside. And next thing you know, we see this White Walker on a horse taking it somewhere. And then when it arrives to its location, he puts the baby down, this White Walker, puts the baby down, and then another one comes, approaches it, picks up the baby's crying, and the White Walker touches its face, the baby's eyes turn like bright blue, and you can just see it turns into a White Walker. What? Crazy. So we didn't have any deaths in this episode, really, did we? We didn't have any deaths. We didn't really have a lot of frightening moments, but we definitely had some political maneuvering going on in this episode. That's what this game is. It's all about this Game of Thrones, who's positioning themselves in the best position. And to me, that would be Khaleesi, the mother of dragons, because she is building that army. Oh my goodness, it is getting crazy. And I think Jon Snow is doing a very good job positioning himself at the wall, and he is definitely becoming a leader, which is good to see because I love Jon Snow. And even though he has some people that are challenging him, he's stepping up to them and he's not backing down, which is something that I like to see. So yeah, let me know what you guys thought of this episode. Leave a comment down below. Can't wait to see what's going to happen next week. Yeah, I enjoyed this episode. I definitely enjoyed it. All right, guys, I'll see you next week. Bye.